Ever heard of a heist so perfectly planned it almost got away with being the perfect crime? We're talking about the largest cash robbery in United States history. A staggering $18.9 million vanished into thin air. This is the story of the 1997 Dunbar Armored Robbery, a crime that wasn't masterminded by a sophisticated gang of international thieves, but by an employee who knew the system inside and out. The year is 1997, and Los Angeles. The Dunbar Armored Facility on Mateo Street is supposed to be a fortress, a place where millions of dollars are stored and processed daily. It's a hive of security, with cameras, armed guards, and timed lock vaults. But every fortress has a weak spot, and for Dunbar, that weak spot was a man named Alan Pace III. Pace wasn't some high-ranking executive. He was a regional safety inspector. A guy who was supposed to prevent accidents, not plan the crime of the century. But his job gave him something more valuable than any weapon knowledge. He had the keys, not literally, but figuratively. He knew the facility's layout like the back of his hand. He knew the security camera locations, the staff schedules, and most importantly, he knew the gaps in their defenses. Pace noticed a critical vulnerability: the security cameras. Only recorded, they weren't monitored live. He also observed that on Friday nights, the vault was left open for longer periods to handle the massive influx of cash from the day's business. The facility was bursting at the seams with money, and security was at its most relaxed. It was the perfect storm, and Pace was ready to make it rain. But he couldn't do it alone. A heist of this magnitude required a team. So, Pace turned to his childhood friends, Eric Boyd, Eugene Lamar Hill, Freddie Lynn McCrary Jr., Terry Dion Whittle, and Thomas Lee Johnson. These weren't career criminals, they were regular guys, some with minor rap sheets, who were about to be pulled into a plan that would change their lives forever. Pace spent months meticulously planning every detail. He drew up blueprints of the facility from memory. He studied guard patrol patterns. He even figured out how to subdue the night guards without causing serious harm. His plan was simple but brilliant. They would use his insider knowledge to walk in, take the money, and walk out before anyone even knew what had happened. On the night of Thursday, September 12, 1997, the plan was set in motion. Pace had been fired from Dunbar earlier that day, but he kept his keys and knowledge. It was now or never. He and his 5 accomplices met up, armed with pistols and shotguns, wearing ski masks and black clothing. They converged on the Dunbar facility just after midnight. Using his keys, Pace let the crew into the employee canteen. They lay in wait. Their targets were the 2 night guards who would be taking their staggered lunch breaks. One by one, as the guards entered the canteen, the crew ambushed them. They didn't shoot. They used the element of surprise, overpowering the guards and tying them up with duct tape. Pace, always one step ahead, knew exactly where the blind spots were, ensuring their actions went unseen by the cameras. With the guards neutralized, the real work began. The crew made their way to the main vault. As Pace had predicted, the massive door was open. Inside, a mountain of cash waited for them. Sacks and carts loaded with money, millions upon millions of dollars. They had a limited window of time before the next shift arrived or an alarm might be triggered. They worked frantically, a well-oiled machine directed by Pace. They loaded the cash into a U-Haul truck they had rented for the occasion. They weren't greedy or chaotic, they were efficient. They took stacks of unsorted bills, leaving behind the new, sequential ones that could be easily traced. It was a calculated move. They filled the truck to the brim. It's estimated they were inside the facility for only about 30 minutes. By 12:30 a.m., they were gone. They drove the U-Haul to a rented warehouse a few miles away. The 6 men, standing in a room with nearly $19 million in cash, had just pulled off the biggest cash heist in American history. It was a moment of pure, adrenaline-fueled triumph. They had beaten the system. Back at the Dunbar facility, silence. The bound guards were only discovered hours later, around 7:30 a.m., by another employee. When the police arrived, they were stumped. There were no signs of forced entry. The thieves seemed to know every inch of the building. It was clear from the get-go, this was an inside job. The FBI immediately suspected Alan Pace. His recent firing made him the prime suspect. But when they brought him in for questioning, Pace was cool as a cucumber. He denied everything. With no physical evidence linking him to the crime scene, and with his accomplices keeping their mouths shut, investigators had nothing to hold him on. They had to let him go. For a while, it seemed like they had committed the perfect crime. The crew began the difficult task of laundering the money. They used friends and family to buy homes, cars, and businesses. They tried to fly under the radar, but the temptation of sudden, immense wealth is a hard one to resist. They started making mistakes. Eugene Hill, one of the accomplices, made a particularly foolish error. He gave a stack of cash, still wrapped in its original currency straps, to a real estate associate to arrange a property deal. The associate, seeing the teller stamps on the straps, became suspicious and went straight to the police. This was the first thread that would unravel the entire operation. The police now had a direct link. They put Hill under surveillance. Slowly, patiently, they started connecting the dots between him and the other members of the crew, including their ringleader, Alan Pace. The lavish spending, the new businesses, the sudden unexplained wealth, it all started to paint a very clear picture. The final nail in the coffin came from one of their own. Almost 2 years after the heist, accomplice Eugene Hill was arrested on a separate charge. Facing a long prison sentence, he decided to cooperate. He confessed everything, detailing the entire robbery from start to finish and naming every single person involved, including the mastermind, Alan Pace. With Hill's testimony, the dominoes fell quickly. The FBI rounded up the rest of the crew. Alan Pace, the man who thought he had planned the perfect crime, was arrested in 2001. During the trial, prosecutors laid out the intricate details of his plan. Despite his denials, the evidence was overwhelming. Pace was convicted and sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. His accomplices received varying sentences for their roles in the heist. The perfect crime had unraveled, all because of a single, careless mistake and the weight of their own guilt. So what happened to the money? Of the nearly $19 million stolen, authorities were only able to recover about $5 million. The rest, it's believed to have been spent, laundered, or is still hidden away somewhere, lost to time. The story of the Dunbar Armored Robbery serves as a fascinating reminder that even the most brilliant plans can be undone by human error, and that the long arm of the law, however slow it may seem, eventually catches up. It's a tale of greed, betrayal, and illusion of a perfect crime. A story that proves that sometimes, the biggest threat isn't from the outside, but from the person you'd least expect, right on the inside. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible true crime stories. Let me know in the comments what you think. Could they have gotten away with it? We'll see you in the next video.